I have had read to me, I think that's the vernacular that one needs to use in these circumstances, I Heard You Paint Houses, which is an account of Frank Sheehan. And I've read this book primarily because I've been waiting for the film to come out, and unfortunately there are just no advantages of working where I work, so I will have to see it in the cinemas if I want to see it early, or I'll see it on November 29th, I think, when it makes it to the service. I've reflected quite a bit associated with what's happening to this film industry thing. It just seems that the quality of content that I want to watch is no longer being produced by Hollywood. And I've thought about this with regards to Weinstein in particular, because just the sheer volume of stuff that Weinstein put out, and also the fact that a majority of his stuff was aimed at adults, just left a gulf, I think, in what is coming out of Hollywood currently. And certainly, although I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the stuff that Weinstein produced, and obviously the man is forever besmirched going forward for justifiable reasons, let me point out, it does strike me as curious that there is nothing there to replace what used to be put out by Weinstein. I mean, I guess you have Lionsgate, you have these kind of, but they're more kind of strange horror, curious plot twists. I saw recently Joker, which I thought was an amazing film, but as you go in to see a film that is derivative of a lot of existing work, and you look at all the films that are coming out that are all derivative of existing work, you start to wonder, where do these new things come from? Well, obviously there's a narrative that the company I work for might be responsible for some new things coming along, but in terms of the film format, in terms of sitting in a movie theatre and actually seeing a film, I just haven't seen anything other than Joker in the past few years that makes me feel like it was worthwhile going to the cinema. And actually, I'd stopped going to the cinema just in general. Joker was a once-off thing. Really, I don't know. I don't know what would get me to the cinema. Well, maybe The Irishman will get me to the cinema. So, in reflecting about this, a narrative which I follow more in my written work than I do in my spoken audio work relates to this notion of latent programmed sexuality. I think that's probably the easiest way to put it. And that Weinstein, through his interactions, latently programmed certain kinds of sexuality that were related actually to the kind of abuse that he did as well. And how pervasive this has been in popular consciousness through his films, or the films that he produced. And when you start looking at society with this kind of deconstructive element, particularly associated with hidden sexual abuse and this kind of stuff as being omnipresent in the culture, you start to have a very curious understanding of these changes, these shifts in what is presented through things like film. In a completely different tangent, I should probably use this opportunity to announce that I am producing a new open source project under the Ape SDK general bandwagon. And in saying this, I should also say that I have shuttered a majority of the website presence associated with Noble Ape. I have 3 relatively curious scrolling Noble Ape images that I have on the 3 main pages, which were the site's main page, /sim and /tom. And I've done this in part because it was pointed out to me that the existing information online doesn't show any of the new stuff that I'm going to be doing. And my aim is to actually create a solid break between Noble Ape and all the stuff that I'm doing going forward. There are easy ways for potential adversaries or actual adversaries to start gathering information and, planning their next wave of nonsense. So I just want to create some air gap barrier between what I've done historically and what is coming up. Although apesdk.com, the domain name, shows all the current stuff and all the current links and what have you. I just haven't done anything to promote that particular site as yet. One of the packages that I've created most recently is called Level Ape, and it is a software package that is designed to directly replace Levelator, which is a podcasting package that I used for a number of years, 14 odd years now. I actually recorded a podcast explaining in great detail what Levelator did to my audio, and then in listening to it, I thought no one listening to this is going to understand the nuances of Levelator in any way, shape, or form. But Levelator was proprietary software, and ultimately proprietary software that stopped working with macOS Catalina, and the company that made the software has been out of business for probably 8+ years now. So there's no progression forward. And as it's part of my editing workflow, I need to write software to actually fill that part of the editing workflow. And that's what Level Ape is supposed to do. So, I don't know, probably in the next 3 months, I'm going to be doing a lot of work associated with audio transformation. And I have an entire episode of Model Rail Radio used as the example of what needs to be done in order to get this stuff to work properly. We'll see what happens. I need to put in at least the 3 odd months worth of work into it to get it to a state where I can show it publicly, although there is a public-facing web page for now. And there's a public-facing web page that links to the software repositories if anyone wants to get involved early on. But the proof of this thing is something which is loosely called dog fooding, which means that you just have to eat your own dog food. That's where it comes from. And dog food here is the software, so I have to use my own software in order to make improvements. Very early days currently associated with what is shown. Just the basic drag-drop interface and the connection to the Ape SDK core, which already has existing audio processing stuff as part of it, because the noble apes speak, or should I say, the simulated apes speak. Reprogramming my own language associated with these projects that I've worked on for so long is part of this process. But the shuttering, really I only did on Friday night. I've got to have a gap, an air gap, as I've said, between what was done even earlier this year and what is coming in the future, just for my own psychology. I thought I had more to talk about today, but as a Sunday morning occurs, doesn't seem that way.